The next issue is the time horizon. I think most of the research is based on 30 years, so I would imagine that shorter or longer would have an impact.
Yeah, the time period's important, and as the time period gets longer, the safe withdrawal rate decreases, but it's kind of a U-shaped, well, not half of a U-shaped pattern, where if you're looking at just like 10 years or so, you may be talking about worst-case scenarios of around a 10% withdrawal rate. As you're moving beyond 30 years to, say, 35 or 40 years, the 4% will become something more 3.8% or 3.6% based on the historical data. It does seem to level off so that if you're, well, we don't really have enough historical data to talk about 50 or 60 years, but maybe historically it seems like it's on a path to level off at, say, 3.5%, something in that neighborhood.
Okay, so in choosing a withdrawal rate, understanding your time horizon, which obviously is unpredictable, but at least estimating the time horizon is important. Okay, I think the next another issue you point out is that the research is based on limited asset classes, and how does that affect the withdrawal rate?
So now we're finally getting to a reason that can help increase the withdrawal rate.
Okay, good.
Everything else was bad news. This one's good news. Yeah, the standard 4% rule is just based on using the large cap S&P 500, and Bill Bengen used the intermediate term government bonds, and those are the only two asset classes. If you have a diversified portfolio, including international assets or a wider variety of fixed income or small cap stocks as well, you have to look at what's the overall return and volatility of the portfolio you put together. If you can either increase the returns or reduce the volatility, and diversification at the very least will help to reduce the volatility, that can support a higher withdrawal rate. And so that William Bengen did a lot of work himself looking at including small cap stocks. And so he actually talks personally about 4.5% as the safe withdrawal rate.
Once you add small cap.
Once you add historically small cap stocks. Have been very volatile, but they've helped the overall portfolio to support a higher withdrawal rate by reducing the increasing the return, the combination of the increased returns, and even if volatility then increased a little bit, the overall combination allowed for a higher sustainable withdrawal rate.
Okay, you mentioned that the way that the withdrawal rate is calculated can have an impact on the withdrawal rate. Can you explain that?
Yeah, there's a couple issues with this point. So as we mentioned at the beginning, this rule assumes the constant inflation-adjusted withdrawals. Ty Bernick from Wisconsin had a very important article in 2005 where he showed with the data that people decreased their spending, and now there's been a lot more research about this. So if people decrease
as they age,
they reduce their discretionary expenditures, spending less on travel and eating out and so forth. And with a declining real expenditure, this is in inflation-adjusted terms, with declining expenditures, you can have a higher initial withdrawal rate because you don't have to plan for the full inflation adjustments in subsequent years. As well, though, another big question still with the withdrawal planning is healthcare costs. And if you want to plan for the possibility of increasing healthcare costs, you may have higher than inflation-adjusted withdrawals. So this is still an area that needs more work to be done, but it does seem that people may voluntarily, and another question was, well, if people reduce expenditures, was it voluntarily or was it because they actually wanted to reduce their expenditures? It seems there's indications that people do voluntarily reduce expenditures.
Oh, right. Is it a function of that they don't have enough money, or is it a function of they're just not spending as much because they're not doing as much?
Right. Have they run out of wealth so that they have to reduce their expenditures, or are they just simply not as active anymore?
Yeah. Anecdotally, when I talk to advisors, they generally, indicate that that's a pattern they see all the time. My father's 100 years old, and I watched him over his retirement period, get to that point where, he sort of traveled to Europe in early retirement, and, at 100, he's not spending very much money. So it definitely changes over time, I think. Yeah.
So if you're reducing your real inflation-adjusted expenditures, then you can withdraw more to start with.
Right. And I guess that also there's also a possibility of changing your expenditures if you have bad performance. I mean, I think there's research on that, too.
If you're flexible and you know you're taking a chance that you may have to reduce your expenditures should you get a bad sequence of market returns, then that flexibility gives you the opportunity to spend more initially as well.
To have a little higher withdrawal rate.
Yeah, that's something Jonathan Guyton's looked at a lot.